My story about my family had changed. I did have a new frame on it. And I just felt like I need to give this away and I'll need to write the whole thing and make it as beautiful as I can. And maybe it will heal me to do this, and maybe it will heal other people to read it. And I hope to get it in the hands of everyone who might benefit to read it.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman Podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice and business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Sally. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Marta. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes, well, I am so excited to learn more about you, your story. We're going to be talking more specifically about a book that you recently published. So tell us more, who you are and what you do.
I'm Sally Lee Stewart, and I'm a fourth-generation Californian. I live in the coastal hills in a very pastoral setting, and I have worked in public school, elementary, and also as a private tutor, as an education specialist. So I work with children with learning challenges, reading, writing, and math challenges. And I just wrote my first novel and released it in November. It's called The Angle of Vanishing Stability.
I love that name, and we'll definitely dive in. But I'd love to hear the inspiration behind that, with you being an educator. Why now? Obviously, I know it took a while, and that's something else that we always like to talk about with authors is how long did it take to write. But tell me more about the idea surfacing and being like, okay, I'm doing this thing.
Yes, I think it's just so important for everyone to create, and everyone creates in a different way.
hmm
I started writing as a child. I bought my first journal at the local bookstore when I was 13, and I'm sure it was very therapeutic for me
Yeah.
to write. And I think before that, I had a teacher who really changed my world because he pulled me aside and said, "Your teacher let me read this creative writing piece you wrote, and I really liked it. And, this is an ability you have." And I was shocked. I mean, I didn't really have a sense of self. I grew up in a big family, and I'm a twin. So
Oh,
it was very surprising. I was getting that witness
yeah.
experience that children have when an adult says, "Oh, I see this going on with you."
hmm
So I continued to like writing, although I'd get mixed responses. I would sometimes have English teachers who said, "Oh, God, your grammar is horrible," or "You can't spell and you don't understand structure." And then other years I'd have these teachers who just give me A's and loved it. So that was confusing.
Yeah.
And I was always interested in the arts, and in my late 20s, I tried to write a novel, and I gave up on it. I was encouraged, and I read some of it on public radio, and then I became discouraged. I got really lost trying to rewrite it.
Mm,
It fell apart, kind of like I kept building the house and taking it apart.
hmm
And I became a mother, and that was just such powerful, important work and discovery. And I was switched from writing fiction to writing poetry. Something I could fit in during a nap when my baby napped. And eventually, when my son was older, I felt like I'm not going to be able to give what I have to give through the arts. There's enough good artists, and there's certainly plenty of good writers, and I seem to have an ability with children. So I'll go into education. And I started, one foot in front of the other, hard as a 40-year-old woman to be taken seriously. But I ended up getting a credential, and actually a very difficult credential as an education specialist with a master's in learning and instruction. And I continued to just thrive and love my work. And it was very challenging. And I was so glad I wasn't a writer, and I wasn't going to write, and I wasn't a writer. And then, but it's sort of, I think in the back of my mind, I thought, well, when I'm an old woman, I'll write a book.
hmm
So all of a sudden it was that time, a really difficult thing happened. I was really at a loss for, I really lost my stability. And but I went right for my writing, and I wrote every day. And about after 200 pages, I realized that I was really having pleasure doing this writing. And I was actually also pleased reading it.
Mm.
It was really a memoir. And then I thought about self-publishing. I thought, I don't want to deal with an agent at this point. I'm 60 and I have savings. I could publish my own book. Why don't I do that? Like, if I invest in my own work, then I'm going to do my very best
Yeah.
and not get caught up in this idea of being like a child who's getting an adult's approval. This
Mm.
random person I don't even know, who's probably way younger than me. It's like, no, nah, I'm going to do this. And so I just talked for about 45 minutes with a publisher and realized this is not the book. This material is too new. It's too fresh. The book is fiction. I want art. I want to be able to use my subconscious like I see my students use it. They just, you put a sand tray in front of them and immediately they have all the little characters. They have a story. It just pours out, and
Mhm.
it's so vivid
Yeah.
and vibrant. And I wanted that canvas where I could just go
Mhm.
and not be stuck. Well, with the memoir, it seemed a more complicated form to me.
Yeah.
And I never understood how people could write novels. I've enjoyed many of them. I've gone through years where I didn't read any fiction, and I thought how silly to read fiction. But I've come to really love it. And I wrote this book. I think I wrote 600 pages in about a year.
Wow.
And then I went back to the publisher and got some help with editing, cut a lot to make it have an arc. And even so, it's not as plot as structured as a lot of novels. There's a lot of interiority, and my purpose was to try and portray a family in a deeply emotional way.
Mhm.
So the family dynamic was really explored, and the characters were really explored.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for sharing the whole thought process and journey behind it because it's things that we all go through, and at times, most times, we feel like it's just us, right? Oh, I want to write. No, I don't want to write. Oh, let's wait. I'm not the best writer. There's other people. Let me follow a different career. And now giving yourself that permission, saying, hey, there's nothing that's keeping me from doing this, and I don't need anybody's approval. It's amazing what age does, right? You're like, I have the money, I can just go for it. I don't need anyone to tell me that this is good enough. And even the mixed opinions from the teachers. I did experience that, and I think that's pretty
Oh,
common too because everything's so subjective, anyways. Um, but good for going for it and getting it done. So tell me more about the inspiration. So you were writing a memoir, and then you shifted into writing this fiction piece. But I'm sure this is inspired by your life experience and potentially family dynamics. Tell us more about the story.
I saw it in three parts, and I've just written the first part. So this is the first part,
Ooh,
the
okay,
angle of
first
vanishing
sequel.
stability. And I feel there's a second book and a third book because the idea is to show um, a passage of time of an actual life, and to show uh, the healing of the protagonist going from uh, having no sense of self and very low self-esteem to becoming her own person and finding her purpose in the world, and forgiving her father. I mean, there's a deep father-daughter wound, and to truly forgive, not in the slick sense of it's the moral thing to do.
Right.
To truly forgive, I think is difficult work. Look at our world that's
Yeah.
polarized, and we're behaving like barbarians still. We're having a hard time with our emotional evolution here. And I mean, there's light and there's dark, and maybe they define each other. However, I've always been in the camp of the light, like heal, love, put the compass needle to love, heal, keep trying, don't give up.
Yeah.
um, so the inspiration came from hardship, really. I mean, also in that I love to write, that I love language, that I love letters, sounds, vibrations, stories. I hadn't felt our story had been told. Um, Admittedly, we frame things one way, one decade, another the next, or maybe even from one day to the next.
Hmm.
My story about my family had changed. I did have a new frame on it. And I just felt like I need to give this away, and I'll need to write the whole thing and make it as beautiful as I can. And maybe it will heal me to do this, and maybe it will heal other people to read it. And I hope to get it in the hands of everyone who might benefit to read it. I feel there's a lot of secrecy and hiding and shame, and it's so freeing and liberating to just tell one story.
Hmm. Oh, that is so true. That is so, so true, especially with families. As I get older, I have been experiencing this myself with having my own children and then realizing things about my relationship with my parents and wanting to do
Mm.
things differently or being more open as well and have conversations that were not really had when I was growing up. And yeah, there is such power in talking about things. Actually, I was just talking to some friends about it, how sharing help helps us process, right? When it's just in our minds, it is a certain way, and then once you start exteriorizing it, it changes. Just like what you were saying. Today, I may frame it this way, tomorrow,
Hmm.
or a few years, and how beautiful to put that in a piece for you
Yeah,
to
there's
heal and to heal others.
I hope so. I worked very hard in my life to heal, and all of a sudden I had a picture of the whole thing, and I thought, oh. And then also there's a beauty in emptying your cup.
Yes.
You can fill it with the new life you have when
Yes.
that's behind.
Hmm.
And, you know,
Yeah. That's a beautiful way of putting creating is emptying your cup and then being able to fill it again and knowing that you're emptying it and pouring into someone else, into something, and someone else being able to benefit from that. I love that, especially when it comes to writing books. Obviously, having written my own books and encouraging clients to do so, I'm very grateful for this conversation that we're having to encourage
oh,
people that are listening to be like, I have something
yeah,
I would like to share or that I would like to
yeah,
process, and I can process that publicly with
yeah.
your writing and help someone else. So tell us more about where you see this going. Like what are your plans in having this published? Have you thought that far ahead?
Well, I was not really participating in social media. Um, I was feeling attached to the world I grew up in, where we spent less time in front of screens and where I would rather be in nature than looking at nature on a
Yeah.
tiny screen. And also, I'd rather be talking to somebody in person, trying to reserve time to have in-person meetings. Um, but I mean, as you know, I mean, you've had three babies and you have book babies as well in your
Yeah.
business. It's a baby too, and you need to nurture it. So it's like, I guess I better pull my bootstraps up and learn something about marketing,
Hmm.
because I just wrote this book and I need more people to know it's there. So I got some help from Girl Friday Productions, but really what they did is they gave me a couple of tools that I could use, which were beautiful tools. But I realized I needed to do outreach, and that's partly what brought me to you. And I'm loving the podcast community. I love the possibility to have conversations with people, um, to in a grassroots way share the availability of my book. So yes, I am. I do have started the second book, but I got so much response when I did this big emailing that I realized, oh, this work has to come first. I have to do some marketing for my first book. I need to do more.
Let me stop you right here and remind you about my free resource with 30 plus visibility ideas to expand your reach today. Get visible right now. Just go to marchesburg.com/visibility and download and access instantly my 30 plus visibility ideas guide to get you going, man. Get on out there, get on social media, get to speaking and get to networking to really make your brand and your business known.
I'm actually leaving on Tuesday for a very big voyage, which has been a dream of mine for a long time. And I think life kind of dances with art. And I think that I'm going to sail from Tonga, or Tonga, I guess is how you say it, in Tonga, from Tonga to Hawaii.
Ooh,
It's thousands of miles
my goodness, that is
with two
a
other
lot.
people on a 40-foot boat. And I've been practicing sailing for about 5 years, and I'm very passionate about it. And it's been very healing,
Mm,
very much connecting me to my father and my my grandfather, and even beyond. I feel connected to that part of my ancestry, and it's really empowering me. And the more I sail, the more I understand why I'm here.
hmm. Wow. Well, I am very grateful that you're sharing about not wanting to partake on social media, but then realizing if you want this message to get the reach that it deserves, you better get to promoting and to marketing. And
Yeah,
this is what I'm all about. And I'm glad to have you say this because I say it all the time, but to then have somebody come on and say, I realize that I need to do this and that it is important, and you
yeah,
are doing it. And you're seeing the results, right? Of people responding and saying,
yeah.
yes, come talk to me about your book, and then realizing you need to promote this before you move on to something else. That is so powerful. And I'm so happy that you're getting the responses and the interest because it is a wonderful work. Well, tell me more about your relationship with the ocean then, because there's lots of elements about the water and talking about the stability and all of that, obviously because you've been ra-
Yeah.
raised there. Tell me more.
Um, I am in love with water and wind, and I thought as a child that sailing was so elitist, and I didn't want to. I kind of rebelled, but I always secretly, kind of like the child in me, loved it. I love the wilderness, and it is wild out on the water, and I like the um, connection, locating yourself on the planet in relation to wind and direction and the direction of the waves. And I love the Brazilian songs about Iemanjá,
Yes.
Iemanjá.
Hmm.
And that embodies it in a way. The my querida, the queen, and the songs to the water. Water is the subconscious. Water is the feeling world. The
Hmm.
feelings are the things that we have to feel to heal, and
Yes.
it's very frightening. We've all lived through generations of atrocities. Our ancestors have had hardships that they didn't get to really heal from emotionally, and it all comes down. But there's a possibility to really evolve if we can connect with our feelings and the subconscious. And the planet is mostly water, and water is holy and beautiful, as is the sky and the earth, the trees, the rocks. But I'm just going through a thing with water now.
Yeah.
But I'm learning from it. You watch water, it's flowing, it's fluid.
It's beautiful.
It's not when it's not in its ice state. And that's what I'm trying to get to with my ability to watch my feelings, not be triggered, not be reactive,
Hmm.
to become adept at even the biggest, seas,
Hmm.
not being afraid and staying present.
Wonderful. Well, just to make sure people are know the name of the book and what it is about, because we talked about, writing it and all of that. Tell us what the name of it is and what can people expect as they're reading through it. Obviously, we talked about healing and that family dynamics relationship, and I'll have the links in the show notes. But it's available on Amazon.
Yes, Barnes and Noble and bookshop.com. And, and if you go to your local bookstore, they can order it through Ingram Sparks.
Okay.
Um, it's a coming of age novel. It's a sweeping coming of age novel. The protagonist goes from 3 to 33. She's in a large family of sisters. There's 5 daughters, and the complicated relationship between the mom and dad. And there's a lot of heavy drinking and the sort of post-World War II style. And it's the 60s and 70s. So there's a big generation gap
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of chaos. And um, this protagonist is wanting to love her father, and he's wanting to love her, and they're at a total loss. And there's abuse, and there's pain, and there's searching, and there's getting stuck, and there's just increments of of healing and freeing oneself. And there's definitely a big breakthrough at the end. Um, However, I do plan to write a second and third book, so
Mm,
the story will go on. And the protagonist moves from California to New York City, no, to Seattle, to New York City, to Nicaragua, on a wild adventure, and then the story comes back to California.
okay. Wow. It's quite the adventure, and people can be on the lookout for the sequel as well. Before I ask you my final $1 million question, I do want to hear from you. What is your biggest advice for someone that is maybe at that crossroads like you were? I want to write something, but I don't feel qualified, wait a few years, but they're hearing your story now. What would you say to somebody that has that story and they're wanting to put it out, but they're still stuck?
Maybe ask how one might create more space or time in a day to be undistracted,
Mm,
to give oneself the gift of, with just writing, or it could be drawing or painting, or it could be a walk, anything to connect with yourself, to make a spacious mind. I meditate. I love meditation. And I think thoughts are thoughts. They're not reality. So don't believe all your thoughts, especially the doubting ones. And I had to work very hard to keep doubt at bay. And rather than let identify with the doubt, I would say, oh, okay. You can sit down, and this is a Buddhist thing, I believe. You can sit down and have tea with your fears, or
mm,
you can send them away respectfully.
mm,
And I ask the fear, it's like, are you coming from a place of love? Are you coming from the heart? Are you coming from fear or anger or hate? And they'll tell you. So it's like, okay, doubting Thomas, see you later. I'll go sit on the bench.
mm,
And then I go forward. So I had to do that a lot. Yes, you are worthy to write your story. Yes, you are worthy to sing like the birds, howl like the wolves. Yes, we are here to play, and art is playful in a way, and we are here to tell our stories. And um, the judging needs to stop, because no one can tell your story other than you,
yeah,
really.
yeah. Hmm. I love that. I just actually read a quote this morning. I'm probably not going to quote it right, but it said something like, in a world or in a culture that preaches self-doubt, be the rebellious one and believe
Yes.
in yourself. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, there's so much out there that makes us question ourselves, and it's really our job to believe in ourselves and then tell others this too, right? Which is what we're doing here.
Yeah, we are worthy. We don't need to be thinner or taller
Yes.
or richer. We are worthy and exactly the way we are. In fact, we're we're miraculous, each and every one of us.
Yes, we are. Well,
So it's tapping into that, I think.
mhm. And I love what you said, making time to connect with yourself. That is something that we lack at this day and age for sure, especially because of technology and the screens. It's so easy to be caught up in someone else's lives, and instead, and when you are creating, you are spending time with yourself. And I think for many people, it's scary to spend time with yourself and your thoughts. That's why we get so busy. But
Yes, and also the technology is very addictive. A young person referred to Instagram as the scroll of doom
oh my gosh.
really recently. So, like, yes, one needs to learn how to be mindful with technology, but turning the power off, or putting everything aside, or having a room or a place you walk outside where you don't bring anything. I mean, we didn't, when I grew up, we didn't have
Yeah,
cell phones.
me either.
It was fine. I don't think more people were dying, or, it was just,
Right. Yeah. There was definitely more time to be with yourself and with your thoughts. That's for sure. Which
and
is
each other. Yeah.
and each other. Yeah. Well, in many ways, as it usually happens in the interviews, I think you already answered my $1 million question, but I want a specific answer. Are you ready?
Sure.
What is an empowered woman?
Mm. I believe an empowered woman can breathe in her belly
Mm,
and feel the beauty of her female body and her sovereignty, that she can autonomously discern who's in her life and who's not in her life, and what she's creating in her life, and that she can have her own business if she wants, or if she's working with someone, she has the agency to negotiate with them, and that their relationship is equitable. An empowered woman will work toward a kind of freedom, to have that sovereignty, and it's all massively challenging.
That is so true. Yeah, an empowered woman is, I think, seeking the challenge and embracing the challenge, right? To see what happens on the other side. Beautifully.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Tell us again the name of your book and how people can connect with you now that you are on the interwebs.
Yes, it's nice to be here among all of these great podcast hosts, and I feel honored. Well, this is my book. It's The Angle of Vanishing Stability, and it's a nautical term. It's for when the boat tips over. It's a technical term. The Angle of Vanishing Stability.
Beautiful. Wonderful. And then I know you're on Instagram. Where can people find you to connect directly with you?
My Sally Lee Stewart author.com.
I'll make sure and have all the links in the show notes. Thank you again for sharing with us. Good luck on your voyage. I'm excited to follow it along. Hopefully you'll share more on social media.
Eventually, definitely. And I thank you so much, Marta. It's good to know you're out there as well with the marketing help.
Yes, I'm here for all the visibility.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you've enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends, or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.